Well, here I am. Just a fair warning. This video is... Oh. Sorry about that. Just a fair warning. This video is fairly serious. I'm not going to be making a lot of dumb jokes here, but it's something that should be at least talked about, as I've had a couple of people ask me if I am going to talk about it. But I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm well aware some people are going to call me out on what I say based off of my playing ability in the game in question, of course, War Thunder, under the pretense that, well, I'm a bad pilot or a bad player. It's a fact that I'm not a bad pilot. Okay? Great. A great pilot? Not so much. Can I pull off some stunts when the time arises? Yeah, but even so, my playing ability quite literally bears nothing on what I'm saying here, because it's all based off of drawing conclusions from observations. So I'm just gonna get on with it. My name's Greg Havener. I have a passion for writing, filmmaking, and gaming that have culminated into the creation of this YouTube channel. I have no intention of making this channel into a Gaijin entertainment rant channel. In fact, I was debating about whether or not I should have even uploaded this recording on the subject regarding the recent drama in the War Thunder community right now, as it's become clearly evident that the staff at Gaijin could give a fuck less about their customer base, but I've been asked to do it, and I'll do it. I didn't really have the time or the patience to put together like a video essay on the topic, because, again, could care less about a company that doesn't care less about its customer base, unless, of course, it's a funny video that I think pokes fun at the situation, but here we are. It's not terribly often that you see news regarding a free-to-play game get circulated into the wider scope of games journalism. Usually the only time you'll hear about a game with a more committed following, like League of Legends, World of Warcraft, Team Fortress 2. Those, you know, the big ones. And the only time you'll hear about those is when a big marketing decision is made, like an expansion pack or a decision to go free to play. No one really cares about the new champion added to League except people who play League. And no one really cares about, you know, the new hats or the new guns or content updates. No one really cares about content updates for a particular game with a following like that, except other people who actually play it. So when I saw a post made by Averick, a guy who had been a part of the original forum mod staff on Gaijin's forums, when he suddenly blew a whistle in response to other mods on the site acting ridiculous, I didn't really think much of it. Some members of the staff were being dicks again. I found it disgusting that the staff have been doing things like essentially bullying Averick, accessing personal information about other players, and generally waving their helicopter E-pins around in the air whenever they got the chance they got. But I didn't find it in the least bit surprising either. When you're dealing with a mod staff that locks threads for using red text, or just, quote, being negative, there's not a lot you can really do. Like, the statement has been made. However, I was surprised when I saw that a comment made in response to Averick's post by the CEO of the dev company, Gaijin, get put on r/games. And it was at that point when it became obvious that War Thunder's problems weren't just game issues. They weren't just community issues, and they weren't just developer action issues. War Thunder's problems are, and for the most part always have been, an issue of communication between the community and the developers. The actions exhibited by the CEO of Gaijin, which, if you care to read, I'll leave a link to the discussion in the description of this video. I mean, the actions exhibited by Gaijin CEO pretty much just could be best summarized as Averick making a very, very good point about the way the mods were acting on the site and how that was hindering the development of the game. And essentially what happened is that the CEO just said, I don't care. And when you're at that state, it's just not worth even giving a product the time of day put out by a company whose CEO acts like that. Why is this disconnect so important? Well, I'll start with these two words. Open, beta. In the context of a video game, when you hear the words open, beta, you tend to think one of two things. You either think of it in its actual definition, an unfinished development and process of becoming a finished game, which is open to player access and player testing by just about anyone that signs up for an account. And that includes consistent discussion from anyone willing to play the game in order to critique it and improve it over time. Or you think of the purpose it's often used for, which is an excuse to not actually do shit with the game's development. And that's exactly what War Thunder falls under. It's been in a state of open beta since November 12th of 2012. So that's almost 2 years ago. And quite frankly, while I understand that the project is quite ambitious, it's not treated like a beta should be in any regard. It's being marketed like a fully completed game, like Roll of Tanks. It's had massive demonstrations at events like E3, Gamescom, and PAX. They've showed off key developments of the game at all of those events, and they've done testing with the Oculus Rift and all of it. It's being monetized in a similar fashion to World of Tanks, with premium skins, premium and account benefits, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't mind the fact that the game has this open beta tag, as long as it was an ongoing development, though. However, there have been problems that have come up every once in a while in this game's history that have taken an unnecessarily long time to address. Take the Beaufighter. The Beaufighter's flight model, for instance. Or the Spitfire Mark IX. Or the Doras. Or the Lavochkins. Or the I-18-5s in arcade battles. Hell, most of the Russian tree in arcade battles. The matchmaking that the American planes have in the current iteration of the battle rating system. There's been so many problems that have come up. And frankly, the manner in which they've been addressed has been a subject of annoyance for many of its players, but many people have been willing to overlook it because they look at it and they see, okay, you know, Gaijin is a relatively small company in comparison to something like Wargaming, and it's understandable that things like this take time, and that's very much that's true. Video games take a very long time to put together. It's a very meticulous process. However, when you get to the point when you start doing things like releasing unfinished content, flight models for planes like the Ki-84, for instance. When you get to the point where you start making decisions of that regard the internal structure of the game to the overwhelming protest of your player base, you have issues. And I think part of the reason things like the damage models and the flight models have taken so long to address, internal components, things of that nature, has to do with an integral part of any open beta discussion. And that's the way the community has been handled. For lack of a better phrasing, it's very clear in the actions exhibited by the community managers of Gaijin Entertainment's online forum that Gaijin as a company could really give a fuck less about what their community thinks of them or how they feel about them. The mods they've consistently aimed their sights at anything that they see as remotely negative or silly day in and day out. And if it says anything, if it can be interpreted as a negative, like, ridicule or a criticism of the dev company, it's shut down. And the mod staff's collective definition of negative is just absurd. Take instance this example. Sorry if you hear a noise in the background, it's the dehumidifier turning on. For example, this post made on the forums by Whatadalic, that's his username, titled, quote, "What happened?" says, and I'm saying this exactly as it's typed out to keep it from, just from being confusing. I make a post asking if I can get the A26, that's a plane, a premium plane, for free by logging onto my War Thunder account on a friend's PS4. I go get a quick snack, come back, refresh page, you can't view this topic. He asks, what rule did I break to have it deleted? What was the answer to my original question? Why did I not receive a reason as to why it got closed? How are my forum posts in the future supposed to improve if I don't know what I did wrong? Okay, so that's a very reasonable question to ask. I mean, at this point, he's only made 13 posts on the site, and he's relatively new to what's going on in this forum and the rules, yada yada yada. He's just getting acquainted with it. And let's assume, before we go into it, let's assume that this isn't the proper way to ask this kind of question. Maybe let's say you were supposed to ask like PM a moderator or something like that. The manner in which you would tell this person that, the way I would have done it, was send him a PM directly and tell him, just for future reference, if you have a problem that has to do with, like, the internals of the site, like a mod action, things of that nature, please PM a moderator first. The reason why I would have done that is to keep from embarrassing him in front of a whole bunch of other random people, random strangers on the internet looking at this. This isn't how the mod staff at Gaijin works. Pacifica, a well-known mod on the site, responded by saying, I hide the post because it was negative and pointless. ... What? You said ... Quote, I don't have a PS4, but my friend does. Is it possible for me to log onto my War Thunder account on his PS4 to get the A26? Normally, us on PC have to wait 14 years, win 400 battles, shoot down 2.65 billion planes, destroy 14.3 million tanks, and never die all in one round to get the A26. That's kind of a funny little joke. It's not supposed to be taken seriously. It's obviously very exaggerated and sarcastic. But then Pacifica goes on to say, if you would ask without the pointless and negative silly comments, then it would still be here. He goes on, again, do not post on the forum asking what happened. PM a moderator and discuss it there next time. All with a whole bunch of, I forget the literary term for it. Ellipses. A lot of ellipses. So not only did Pacifica, and all of the infinite wisdom of Pacifica, not only did Pacifica not answer the original question that Whatadalic asked, Pacifica removed the post completely, leaving this guy just out in the dark, not knowing what the heck's going on. And then when he asked what the heck's going on, he essentially, like, put him on the spot and embarrassed him for making what you could clearly interpret as a simple mistake. And this is just absolutely absurd. And this kind of crap goes on. Pacifica, much later down the line, posted a stance in moderation that I think a lot of people would find questionable. Pacifica said there is, quote, negativity, and then there is, quote, positive constructive criticism. I tend to cut the head off the negativity. What? because it leads to nowhere but flame wars and everyone fighting and hating each other. And then it goes on to say a whole bunch of gobbledygook. Now, someone could listen to me say this and go like, oh, well, why are you just picking on Pacifica? It's not just Pacifica. Most of the staff is like this. Most of the staff adopts this really, really dry, just absurd stance when it comes to cleaning up stuff on the forums. And it's ridiculous. I think the worst example had to be Quarter Ninja's post, his response to everyone making negative comments in regards to a Q&A video in which a question was asked of the devs about the battle rating system. Now, keep in mind, the battle rating system was protested vehemently by the player base. And it was obvious that a wide majority of the players did not want it, and they put it out anyway. And, of course, when this video came up and it pretty much clarified how ridiculous this system was, people posted negative comments about it. And then Quarter Ninja posted a bunch of, you know, the usual, yet again, certain groups and their followers do everything in their power to undermine anything we try to do, you know, just, oh wow, people are being so negative. He says, some people cannot understand this is not their home where they can behave as they want. This is a public place owned by Gaijin where Gaijin creates the rules. Thread is locked and, quote, this is verbatim what he posted. Any further attempt to ridicule game developers will be handled in accordance with the rules. So, here's your problem, Gaijin. You want to know why your game is losing its popularity? You want to know why your game is getting consistent negative reviews on Steam? You want to know why your player base is getting so pissy with you? It's because you're not treating this as a two-way street. It doesn't matter how much effort or how much work you put into this game. If you don't take the considerations of your player base, your educated player base. Now, mind you, I understand that some criticism and some ideas are better than others. But if you consistently adopt this abrasive attitude towards your customers, this nonchalant, just lack of caring, your game is not going to get the support it could, or ever will. The quality of the game is going to be reflected by that as well. You can't adopt this consistently negative and abrasive attitude towards your consumers, and then go onto your public forums and whine and moan about how mean everyone is acting towards you, when you know for damn sure that that is the result of your own actions as a company, as exhibited by the CEO of Gaijin, Anton Yudintsev. And Anton Yudintsev is, in my eyes, a successful businessman. He's making a hell lot more money than I am. But guess what? I originally started playing War Thunder because I believed it was a high-quality game for the type of development phase it was in that had the potential to become great. And obviously that potential is being wasted. Obviously the intentions, the ideas of the consumers is not being taken into account. And I have a word of advice for anybody else who maybe still has some kind of glimmer of hope left for this game. Quit giving Gaijin money. They're not going to act on anything that you do for them. It's very clear at this point. And if you were one of the people pressuring on the forums to get a certain thing fixed, and you were constantly meeting resistance, you shouldn't feel guilty. Gaijin shouldn't be playing the victim card here. They only have themselves to blame for what has taken place here. And they know it. Thanks for listening to my rambling. Sorry if you found it incredibly cynical or negative. But this is the final nail in the War Thunder coffin. I'm done. You should be too.